All right, guys, we have breaking news coming out of the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. That's the court based out of Chicago, who has struck down the preliminary injunction that was issued by a judge from the Southern District Court of Illinois. Link to that in the description box below. This was the judge that put a pause. They didn't strike down the law, but he put a pause on the enforcement of the Protect Illinois Communities Act. That's effectively Illinois' assault weapon ban. I'm going to use their terminology, but banning all sorts of different modern sporting rifles, equipment, accessories, all sorts of different things. And there was some crazy things that the state attorneys argued as part of that case. Check out that video below if you've not already done so. But in this particular case, here's what we've got going on here. So the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals have stepped in. They have reversed the injunction, meaning that the assault weapons ban is back in effect now. The initial preliminary injunction was issued last week, which means that in under a week, just a handful of days, it's now back into effect. Here's a couple of the points that the state's attorneys were making. They were saying that if the preliminary injunction would be allowed to remain in effect, that it would threaten significant irreparable harm to the public. That was one of their phrases. Mind you, there are approximately, give or take, 50, maybe 100, maybe 30 homicides committed with AR-15s in any given year. And also keep in mind, it's the most common firearm in America. But apparently that's something. They've also, of course, argued that this whole thing is consistent with the nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation. They've also claimed that in direct contradiction to what the U.S. Supreme Court put down in the New York Rifle State Pistol Association v. Brune case, that, hey, assault weapons, again, AR-15s, AKs, all those modern sporting rifles, as well as so-called high-capacity magazines, not protected under the Second Amendment. They're claiming that magazines for weapons, whether it's a rifle, a pistol, or shotgun, gets no constitutional protection whatsoever. These are all things that the judge in the Illinois case in the Southern District that we did the video on, where we walked through all the arguments and all the different sub-issues, said absolutely not. All still protected. And again, a lot of what Illinois is arguing directly contradicts what the U.S. Supreme Court has said, like word for word, verbatim contradicted. So the other thing that the Illinois attorneys have said is, look, basically that there's a separate lawsuit that's going on in the Northern District Court of Illinois. That's one that we also did the video on, talking about the U.S. Supreme Court stepping into the case potentially. They've ordered extra briefing due this coming Monday. That's May 8th, that the Illinois must do. Separate case. So there's two different cases coming out of Illinois, one from the north, one from the south. We also, the northern video where the U.S. Supreme Court got involved, linked in the description box below there too, so you don't miss any of the action coming out of Illinois. Guys, Illinois might be the ground zero for where our rights are written and defined by the U.S. Supreme Court when it comes to so-called high-capacity magazines, whether they are protected by the Second Amendment, governed by firearms, or whether they fall entirely outside of Second Amendment protections. We're talking about AR-15s, AK-47s, AR-10s, Steyr AUGs, all those things, where the regulations are allowed to come from, where we draw the line in historical tradition. It may all come from this. Crazy cases, crazy decisions. The Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals wasted no time whatsoever striking down this injunction. I can only unfortunately think that we're going to wind up as a result getting a very poor decision from the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. Where is this going to go at the U.S. Supreme Court at the end of the day? Unfortunately, again, time will tell, but it's going to take some time. So for all my friends down in Illinois, keep hanging on. We'll stay on top of this. Breaking just happened a couple hours ago. We'll keep you involved. As always, thanks for tuning in. In order to help us out, if you like these sort of videos, if you like me missing Chick-fil-A dinner, pausing a little bit, step outside from dinner with my family to go ahead quickly do this. Let me know by clicking like, comment down below what kind of things you want to see us covering. As always, I appreciate you tuning in. Please click subscribe, make sure you don't miss any future content. And as always, I will see you in the next one.